Eraser Gradient Paint Bucket with a big twist. Welcome to this very interesting lecture where we'll talk about some tools you'll never use. The Eraser, Gradient and Paint Bucket tool. It's strange to say it, but let me put it another way. To achieve the same results these tools produce, you have far better options, at least for our web design needs. Let's start with the Eraser tool, which acts like a real-life one. It deletes things, and that's basically it. It works on rasterized layers only, and you have several options regarding how it performs. You can set its size, how fast it erases, and so on. All these are irrelevant for us. Here's a real-world example in a web design scenario. You see the right edge of this shape. It's unfortunately fuzzy and it needs to be removed. The layer is already rasterized, so I could theoretically use the eraser for that. And it'd go something like this. I'd zoom in, select a brush, customize its settings, then delete this area. Directly it wouldn't work, so I must make a selection or use another tool. Why go through all that trouble? Here's my approach. Take the rectangular marquee tool and make a selection. Now press delete. You're done. Fast, precise. What else do you need? There are little or no cases where the eraser tool will come in handy in its regular function. What we'll use it for is to rasterize a layer quickly. If you have quick hands, it's very effective to hit E for the eraser. Click anywhere and then press the spacebar when the warning comes up asking you about rasterizing the layer. There's another tool called Magic Eraser, and beginners sometimes expect this from Photoshop. You click on this sky, for example, and Photoshop immediately removes it. Trouble is, as you can see, it doesn't do a fantastic job. You have a slider here through which you fine-tune how loosely Photoshop matches pixels and subsequently deletes them, but this is not the right way to work. Here I'd use a selection tool and I'd use the delete key to remove it, or I'd use a mask to fine-tune my output. I won't demonstrate these techniques as that's not the point of this lecture, but what's important is that the eraser tool has little to no benefit usually. The gradient tool is yet another one. You select your gradient type, you adjust all its settings and you swipe to apply it. It only works on rasterized layers, and as you can see, it covers up just about everything. Even if you make a quick selection and use it, the problem is you're working destructively, meaning you're permanently editing those pixels and you have no options regarding adjusting those edits. I propose instead to use a gradient overlay. So in this case, I'll make a quick selection and duplicate the sky. Again, that's not essential, don't worry too much about it. Great. Now for the gradient, I'll click on this small FX button and I'll choose Gradient Overlay. From here, you'll see similar controls to the ones in the options bar at the top. The difference is this. If I don't like this gradient, I can disable it by clicking on this small eye icon. Or if I want to adjust it, I can open this panel again and modify all its settings. So for me in my workflow, there's no competition between these two. We'll talk more about layer styles later down the road, but this is what I suggest you do. Regarding the Paint Bucket tool, it's the same story. Its purpose is to fill a certain area with your foreground color. It has the same tolerance slider you can adjust to improve your outcome, but again, this is permanent. I'd rather use Color Overlay to achieve the same effect, but maintain editability. It's true that we must first create a selection and duplicate it, so there's extra steps, but you gain lots of freedom. In summary, I recommend you not use these tools. Instead, try my alternatives. I can guarantee a few Photoshop users will disagree with my approach, and they might find certain situations where you can use one of these tools just fine. Yet from my experience working so many years, I'm confident my alternatives will speed up your workflow. Okay, let's continue with some tools you will use.